We are live. Welcome to the Fantasy Fanatics MMA podcast. I am James Lynch. He is JHK. If you haven't watched the show before, basically we preview an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to be talking about the awesome featherweight fight coming up in a little bit here in a few weeks, actually, between Edson Barboza and Giga Chikaze. If you guys have any questions, just post them in the chat here. We do part of the show is a preview, and then the other half is a Q&A, whether it's about the fights or anything else. We're happy to answer your questions here. Make sure you download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. It's the best app out there. I still got to get my Bellator and PFL picks in, but I will get them in. Really excited to go toe-to-toe with you guys when it comes to our picks. Also, stay tuned towards the end of the show as well, where we give our underdog picks. And last thing, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I think I got all the housekeeping out of the way. JHK, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Make sure you guys go smash that button, and yeah, we need more subscribers, man. Get on it right now.
Yeah, subscriber helps us out big time. I know there's a lot of you who do tune in. Just make sure you subscribe. It helps us when it comes to the YouTube recommended videos and other things like that. Same thing with the like button as well. Once you do that, we sort of get put in a higher tier and a lot more people will see the show. So we really appreciate the support. All right, let's get into it. Edson Barboza, Giga Chikaze. Love this fight. Did have a chance to speak to Edson Barboza last week, so got a little bit of insight that I can bring into this. But this is going to be taking place in the main event of what they're still calling is UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikaze. But I believe this is actually the Ultimate Fighter finale, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the finale fight will be on that card. That's going to be taking place on August 28th at the Apex in Las Vegas. So really exciting fight here. Edson Barboza, highly ranked as well. I'll get the rankings up here in a second. But yeah, we've got we'll start first with I guess just how this fight sort of came together, and it does tie into the rankings a little bit here. Edson Barboza ranked number 9, Giga Chikaze ranked number 10. When I spoke to Barboza right after he beat Shane Burgos, he kind of hinted that he wanted to get someone ranked a bit higher, but I think everyone's kind of booked up right now, and I don't think for example Calvin Kattar or Josh Emmett are ready to come back. So this sort of ties up a lot of the names in there. I guess the one name out there is Arnold Allen. I'm not sure what he's up to, but this makes a lot of sense. I love the style matchup. You're not going to get a ground fight in this one. You're going to get two strikers. We'll get into that in a little bit here, but yeah, really exciting fight, and glad to see this being a main event on a fight night card. Just your thoughts on the matchup and how we got here, John.
I think the matchup is good, but kind of confusing in some ways, you know what I mean? Because Giga Chikaze, he beat Cub Swanson, and then now he's ranked number 10, which is confusing to me a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that too much, but it's a great matchup stylistically, and it's good for Edson Barboza because he gets a main event slot, right? And they probably threw him a little bit of more cash, who knows, man, behind the table or something like that. So, we get what we want, which is a striking battle, and that's what everybody likes, in the main event anyways.
Let's start first with Edson Barboza, as we're looking at this tail of the tape here. 35 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach, and Giga Chikaze is 6 feet tall with a 74-inch reach. So Barboza with the slight reach advantage, Chikaze with a slight height advantage here. And they're actually not that much different. People, when I think of Giga Chikaze, I sort of think of a younger guy in his 20s. He's actually 33, John. So there's not going to be a huge difference in age in this fight, with Barboza just being 2 years older than him. Barboza coming from Brazil, Chikaze coming from Georgia, which there's been a lot of there's been a surge of fighters coming from there as of late. So it's really been cool to see that. And I think he's actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's the first Georgian fighter to have a main event spot like this. So that's a little bit of history here in this fight as well. We talked about Edson Barboza's last fight, that fight against Shane Burgos. Such a weird finish, right? He hits Burgos and then it's kind of like a delayed reaction. And I think Burgos's body just basically gave out. It reminded me a little bit of the Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler fight, where McDonald's, he gets punched in the face and it's just this delayed reaction and he collapses. Same sort of thing there in terms of what happened. It was a 3rd round finish for Barboza. I think it's his best performance at featherweight, maybe one of his best performances in the last couple of years. That was a huge win. Burgos was ranked pretty high, and for him to go out there and get the win, very impressive. In fact, Barboza's had back-to-back wins since losing to Dan Ige. Do want to touch on that Dan Ige fight because that was a bit of a close one. I remember watching that and thinking that Edson Barboza won that fight, and actually going back and watching it, I still think he won that fight. Now, if you go over to MMA Decisions, we always bring up this website, great website when it comes to decisions and how the media is scoring it. If you look at it here, only 2 media members scored the fight for Dan Ige, one being Drake Riggs. I got to go hunt him down and see what's up with that. But a lot of other people, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, more than 10 people scoring the fight for Edson Barboza. So had he won that fight, we could be talking about a guy who's been undefeated at featherweight. Instead, he's 2-1, but still very impressive resume. And in terms of what he's done overall in his career, he was a lightweight for a long time. Check out the name of the opponents that this guy has fought throughout his career here. Cowboy Cerrone, Paul Felder twice. He's fought Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, Beneil Dariush, Habib Nurmagomedov, Kevin Lee, Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje, Paul Felder. Like, this is, I'm not even like jumping across the board when I'm talking about these names. I'm talking about names that he had to fight consecutively here if you look at the record. So he, people talk about Rafael dos Anjos' strength of schedule. Edson Barboza is right on that list as well. This guy has fought the who's who. And, a lot of people are saying, oh, when he went on that losing streak, especially when he lost to Felder and Gaethje, people are like, this guy's done. What does he have left here? And he's got plenty left. And he showed that in his last fight against Shane Burgos. We know the stand-up's great. I think the move over to American Top Team has actually paid dividends for him. If you remember, he was training with Ricardo Almeida for years over there in New Jersey. And now he's found a home at American Top Team. It just seems like he's really finding another gear here. And what's crazy too, John, is he weighs in at about 170 pounds on fight day. So he cuts a lot of weight to get to the fight. But that is an advantage for a lot of the, the fights that he has, because he's going to be packing a little bit more of a punch than some of his other opponents. So your thoughts on Edson Barboza and him coming into this fight and what he's bringing to the table here?
Yeah, Edson, man. I feel like when it's all said and done, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, the UFC Hall of Fame. His name will be there. He's etched in history. He has some of the craziest knockouts of all time. And like you said, his resume speaks for itself. He's been in the UFC since 2010, man. Not many people last 11 years in the UFC and still fighting at the highest level, which is insane to me. And he dropped down in weight, not even like going up in weight like most people do. But let's focus on what he did so far in the featherweight division. Let's touch up on the Dan Ige fight. The Dan Ige fight, the first round, I believe he dropped Dan Ige and pretty much dominated that round. So that round was clearly his. The second round, it was close, right? The second round was close, but he had Dan Ige hurt a few times. I think Dan Ige got, a takedown late in the round or something like that. So maybe the judges gave him that round. And then the third round, there was a lot more wrestling going on in that round. It almost seemed like Edson, it was his first cut to 145, and he fatigued in that third round. Even though he fatigued, I still felt like he did win that fight overall. He won the rounds, the first and second round, of course. And then the Amir Khani fight, he just dominated Amir Khani. I think he drops almost every guy that he beats, right? Like, he dropped Amir Khani, he dropped Burgos, knocked him out. He dropped Ige, man. He's just like, it's incredible how he's maintained himself, dude, by losing even 10 more pounds. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, like, this is kind of similar to what Jose Aldo's doing at
I was just thinking of him. It's so funny you mentioned that, because it's the same thing. Like, you'd think a guy that moves down a weight class as he gets older would look worse. And it's funny, they're almost the same age too, right? I think Aldo's 34. So sorry to interrupt you. I was just like reading my mind there.
Yeah, man. It's just amazing how and it's almost like, how do they keep doing that, man? Like, because you see guys come in and only last for like a couple of years and they do great, but they just can't keep continuing that high level of production. And these guys are beating the best guys in the division too, man. So this fight coming up is going to be a great fight. I think Edson Barboza, he is one of the best. I think he's a top 5 fighter in that featherweight division. We just haven't seen him, fight the top 5 guys yet.
And a great test here in Giga Chikaze. And by the way, do we have betting odds on this fight yet? I'm seeing some lines. I have Chikaze as the favorite. There we go. So dead even right now. I've seen some lines that have Chikaze as the favorite. Just goes to show you how even this fight is. I have my thoughts on how I think this fight will play out at the end here. But let's talk about Giga Chikaze here as well. Like we said right there, the odds are pretty even here. Chikaze, kickboxing background, comes from a great camp at King's MMA. So it's a battle of two really good camps here. King's MMA versus American Top Team. The Cub Swanson fight, unbelievable performance, definitely put him on the map and definitely earned him this fight, right? Like, to go out there and get a first round finish over a savvy veteran in Cub Swanson, who himself came off a nice win prior to that over Daniel Pineda. Very impressive win, first ranked win in his career, and really made a statement in that one, I think, and started gaining some momentum there. He hasn't lost since a 2018 fight to Austin Springer on Contender Series. People forget he was on Contender Series, John. I mean, it's one of those things. Even though he is from Georgia, he has fought predominantly in the States. If you look at his record, so his kickboxing debut was in 2011, and then you look here as far as him. Coming into the UFC, he actually made his debut in 2019, back in September of 2019. So he hasn't been in the UFC that long. Got a split decision win over Brandon Davis in that fight. Had a split decision win over Jamal Emmers. I do want to go over those fights quickly, just because, again, there's, they're close fights. Anytime you see a split decision, you kind of want to know how people are thinking on that one. Let's start first with the which fight was it? The Davis fight. I think he clearly won that, but it was one of those ones where it just went split anyways. All the media scored that for Chikadze in that fight as well. The Jamal Emmers fight, I remember being a little bit closer. Although I'm seeing here majority of media members scoring it for Chikadze, 4 media members scoring it for Jamal Emmers in that fight as well. And yeah, other than that, it's been unanimous decision until fighting Jamie Simmons. If you remember, that was a short notice fight. I forget he was supposed to fight instead, but ended up fighting. I think actually they were both kind of added late to that card. So he head kick knocks out Jamie Simmons. I did have a win over Omar Morales before that. That was a good win. Morales was undefeated at the time, so that was great. Of course, he had that war with Irwin Rivera before that. All our thoughts are with Irwin, who I know is going through some legal stuff and some mental health issues as well. And then the Cub Swanson fight as well. So really the sample size for Giga Chikaze a lot smaller here. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just 6 UFC fights and only 1 win over a ranked opponent. But that kickboxing background is something to behold. And, we've seen a lot of kickboxers, come and have a lot of success. Israel Adesanya being one that definitely comes to mind here. So we'll see if that pays dividends here. But in terms of the experience factor, Edson Barboza is going to have that in spades. You mentioned that, you look here, the kickboxing debut, it might even be further than that because this is just what Tapology has. But yeah, Chikadze, 2011 is when he made his kickboxing debut, according to Tapology. Barboza was in the UFC already at that point. So it just goes to show how much different these guys are. And the age isn't that much of a difference as well. The beauty thing about this fight is it's going to stay standing. Chikadze, the one thing to his credit as well is that he's been a mainstay featherweight. Barboza's only had, 4 fights now in the featherweight division. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Who's going to be more comfortable in that weight class? And there's the momentum factor, right? If you look at the winning streak, yes, there's back-to-back wins there for Barboza, but Chikadze hasn't lost, and like I said, since 2018, and he's a much different fighter than when he lost then. So just your thoughts on Giga Chikaze and what he brings to the table in this fight.
I thought when, he fought on the Contender Series, he went in there and was submitted in the 3rd round. And you see nowadays a lot of guys that we see on the Contender Series and lose, we never see them again. We're not even on the regional scene, dude. So he could have, disappeared from the face of the earth. But what did he do? He went back to the regional scene, won 2 more, and got, was it a short notice debut? I don't know, but it was a debut. He won the debut. Then he went and fought Jamal Emmers. That Jamal Emmers fight was really good. I really enjoyed that fight because you know what Giga Chikaze showed in that fight? That he could kind of maintain his gas tank because he was gassed in that 3rd round, even though he won the first 2 rounds and kind of stayed in the fight to kind of win that. And, he got the split decision. The Omar Morales win is also very good too. He dominated that fight. Omar Morales was he was an undefeated guy, a guy that was highly touted. And he did really well against him in 2020. Giga, he had a very good 2020. I think, like you said, the momentum, I think he went 1, 2, 3, 4-0 in 2020. And that was the pandemic year. He was one of the guys that everybody was talking about, like Kevin Holland, guys that are, breaking out during the pandemic. And, that's what Giga, he did in that year. That Jamie Simmons knockout was great. You know why? Because both of his knockouts, the knockout against Cub Swanson and the knockout against Jamie Simmons, they are very similar. And also, Giga is orthodox, and he knocked him out in a southpaw position with the kick, right? The Giga kick or the Giga kick or whatever. And the Jamie Simmons knockout is so great because he kicked him in the stomach, and then seconds later, he knocked him out with the head kick. Same kick, just to the head. And then, the Cub Swanson went to the body. That was so fast, man. Cub Swanson crumpled, dude. That kick must be tough because, man, you don't see Cub Swanson going down from one shot ever. When's the last time you saw him getting knocked out by one punch? Very rarely, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go way back, Jose Aldo, I think, finished him.
But that's a very rare thing,
No, for sure. Yeah.
So Giga, one thing that is impressive with him is that I feel like he was getting his footing in the UFC, and we've watched that develop throughout the last year or so. And now we're getting to see him kind of implement the kickboxing into the MMA. And this is the final product, and he's going to be able to show that against Edson, who is one of the best strikers, should I say, of all time in the UFC ever. Yes, I can say that because he's shown that to us.
Let's get to our picks. To me, we saw the odds there, dead even at a piece. I disagree on the odds here, John. I think Edson Barboza should be a much bigger favorite in this fight. There's a lot of reasons like Edson Barboza in this matchup. Let's start first with the fact that we went over the level of competition here for Giga Chikaze. I'd say his best win outside of Swanson is Jamal Emmers. That's a good win. I mean, again, we're still waiting to see the verdict on what Jamal Emmers is going to, turn into. This is a guy who does have a win over Corey Sandhagen as well. Irwin Rivera is a bantamweight. And it was a great fight, and he wasn't able to put him away. That was one where I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe could have done a little bit better in that one. Omar Morales is a good win, 10-0. I'll give him that. Jamie Simmons is not a good win. We saw him lose last weekend very easily to Johnny Munoz last week. Cub Swanson. Say what you want, great veteran. I know he got the win over Daniel Pineda, but let's not forget that before that, Cub Swanson, was on a bit of a losing streak there, right? And granted, it was against pretty tough guys, and including Shane Burgos, who Barboza already beat, Moicano, Edgar Ortega. There was a 4-fight losing streak there for Cub Swanson. So I feel like this is kind of a case of where people are thinking that he beat the old Cub Swanson, not the new Cub Swanson. And I feel like this is kind of, I hate to use this, but I'm going to kind of go this way anyways. And I know we have someone in the comments who's already complaining about how I feel about Giga Chikaze. I like Giga Chikaze. I think he's a great fighter. I'm getting some Johnny Walker vibes from him a little bit. And what I mean by that is the guy has one good win and everyone's already talking about him being a future champion and all these things. And I'm just like, we haven't seen enough. The difference between these two fighters is that Edson Barboza has been in there with the best. And yes, he's lost a lot of fights. On top of that, he's taken way more damage. You could look at that factor as well and say, hey, Barboza, how much do you have left? You've taken a beating in a number of fights. Remember when he fought Khabib and Kevin Lee? Those were beatdowns, right? They weren't even close. But I mean, we're talking about, especially in Khabib's case, one of the best fighters of all time. Giga hasn't fought anyone close to that. And the fact that Barboza's been in there, the fact that he's got the experience, and the fact that this is his wheelhouse, like it's not like Edson's fighting a superior wrestler or he's fighting someone that's, I don't know, like really skilled in a particular area that Edson isn't. This is his wheelhouse, is striking. And this is, you talked about it there. You gave him the credentials there of being one of the best strikers in UFC history. So if Giga can't knock this guy out, what's this fight going to look like? And that's where I think that Edson, if anything, I think is found another gear at featherweight. I think this is I'm not surprised the line is where it is, because I feel like people have bought in so much to his last performance, Giga's performance, and what he's been able to do. And again, he's on a nice winning streak here. Like if he hasn't lost since 2018, so there's a lot of reason to like that. But I just think if we're looking at this on paper, Edson Barboza absolutely should take this. And I'd even argue that this is going to be an easier fight than Shane Burgos to some degree, just with the fact that Burgos is a bit of a savvy veteran in the sense that he's also fought better competition than Giga Chikaze, in my opinion here. So maybe I'm putting too much stock into this, but I think Edson Barboza wins. I think it'll be somewhat close, but I think that Edson Barboza should realistically be about a 2-1 favorite in this fight. If we're looking at the past performances, if we're looking I don't think Giga Chikaze would have done what he did, what Edson Barboza did to Shane Burgos. I think it's a possibility, but I think that Edson is really just on another level compared to these two fighters. I think it will be a great striking battle. Maybe Giga will win a fight or two. It is 5 rounds too. Let's keep that in mind. So I think that actually favors Edson, who's been in those high caliber main event fights before. So that's another thing to look at here. Now, and this was the other thing too. If Giga Chikaze was younger, let's say he was 26, okay, maybe there's a factor of him being not in his prime yet, but this is probably his prime right now. And Edson's, I think he's in his prime as well. There's not a huge age gap there. I'm going Edson Barboza all day. The question is, can he finish Giga Chikaze? I think it's possible. Maybe in the later rounds gets a late submission or late TKO finish, but I like Edson Barboza all day in this fight. When this fight was announced, my first thought was, why is Edson not fighting someone higher? I looked at the schedule. I'm like, okay, well, this is because let's be honest here. Who has the most to gain from this fight? It's Giga Chikaze. It's not Edson Barboza. If he wins this fight, to me, it's no different than him beating Shane Burgos. Because if you look at the ranking, you look at where he is, he'll be three fight win streak here. He should get a top 5 opponent, but realistically, if he was fighting a Cater or a Josh Emmett, it would mean a bit more for the division. So maybe I'm being a little too hard on Giga Chikaze. I just don't buy into the hype, and this does remind me a lot of Johnny Walker, where people, when he was on his knockout streak, they're like, this guy's the guy to beat John Jones. Meanwhile, they're not looking that he's knocking out, Justin Ledet and Misha Serkinov. And when he fights someone legit like Corey Anderson, he loses. So I'm going with Edson Barboza in this fight. Where are you going? And tell me how you think it goes down.
Well, I agree with you on 2 levels, that Giga is probably in his prime and that Edson Barboza should be favored 2-1 in this fight. I agree with you on that. But, big but, is that I don't think Edson Barboza is going to win this fight, though. I think Giga is going to go in there. I feel like Giga has the striking credentials. I feel like technically he's going to be able to go in there and implement a good game plan. He has a great coach that could put in a game plan that he can follow, that can dismantle Edson Barboza. Even though he's a great striker, he's a very good counter striker. But Giga, he switches stances so beautifully, and I feel like he can knock you out from both stances. I think that's going to give Edson Barboza problems in the stand-up department. There's not going to be any takedowns or there might be a little bit of clinching or something like that, but really nothing's going to happen in that. So I feel like even if it does go to the ground, I'd give the advantage to Edson Barboza. We've seen more from him on the ground than Giga, but it's not going to go right to the ground. Giga's going to go in there. I feel like his he has that one shot, right? Like just like Edson has the one shot, but I think Giga is a type of fighter that could land it with more accuracy than Edson in his age. Because I feel like Edson, that wear and tear, man, you got to always look at that, the wear and tear. And I feel like Giga, he's fearless, man. He doesn't care about Edson's striking. I think a lot of guys that face off against Edson, they worry about that. That's sitting in the back of their head. I don't think Giga is worried. I think he's fearless. I think he's gonna go in there. He's gonna go forward and he's gonna push the pace on Edson. And I feel like it's gonna be a war, and someone's gonna get knocked out. It's most likely gonna be Barboza.
Last thing I'll say on Giga Chikaze, again, to fuel more fire to Max in the chat here, who's giving me a hard time about Giga Chikaze. This guy also thought Marvin Vettori beat Israel Adesanya. I know he's your teammate, dude, but come on. That's like, there was no one thought, I mean, there's no way you could score that fight for Vettori. Not a chance that Vettori won that fight. So the fact that he was going out there and advocating, now that might have been his manager. I will give, that could have been the case there because they do have the same manager and we know which manager that is, but still, how the heck do you think he won that fight? So anyways, that's another reason why I'm not. I mean, if this guy is that delusional about that fight, how delusional is he about his own skill set? So there we go. That's what I'm going with. Edson Barboza is going to be my pick. All right, let's get to the chat here. We'll start with Max, who as always comes on here and thinks I'm a hater. I'm not. I'm giving my opinion on things. Just because we disagree here doesn't mean I'm a hater. So he's saying, let's go Giga, future champion 2022. Again, no evidence that he's going to be a future champion at this point. Zero. You beat Cub Swanson. That doesn't mean you're going to be a future champion. It's same thing with Islam Makhachev. Same thing. He beats RDA. Maybe we can have that conversation, but I'm not there yet with him either. When Giga beat Edson, can you stop hating on him? Not hating on him. I just said I don't think he's going to win. That's not hating on him. I just think that this is a classic case of people looking at a guy has beat subpar competition and are now overrating him. That's all I'm saying. I have nothing against him. He seems like a great guy. In fact, I think his Twitter and Instagram is Knockout Cancer is his handle. Good for him. He's trying to, raise awareness for that. Seems like a nice guy. I like a lot of the fighters over there at King's MMA. Got nothing against him personally. I just think he's being overhyped. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think if he goes in there and dismantles
Edson,
Barboza,
then we can have that conversation.
That's a breakout fight, man. Like,
yes.
You cannot argue anymore that he is a top 10 fighter or even a top 5 fighter, because I consider Edson Barboza, even if he loses this fight, he's still going to march forward to top 5. I think he's still going to be up there, and we might even see this fight again in the future, a rematch or something. But, like I said in my pick, I go with Giga. I feel like he has the momentum. He has the striking and to win the fight. So yeah, this is the breakout. This is the big moment. The Cub Swanson fight wasn't the big moment because, like you said, Cub Swanson, he's at the tail end of his career, and Barboza might be at the beginning of the tail end of his career, still in his prime though, but at the end of his prime. So Giga needs to take advantage now. If he doesn't take advantage now, then I don't know where he goes from here. You know what I mean? Like, he's just going to be like one of those guys that takes fun fights or something like that. Like you said, he's not young.
And I know the gauge gap's was different in this fight, but this kind of also reminds me a bit, if we're going to use a featherweight example, of Yair Rodriguez and Frankie Edgar. I mean, that was a fight that if had Yair won, he was going to propel to the top of the food chain, and that didn't happen. He got destroyed. I don't think that's going to happen in this fight. I don't think Giga's going to get destroyed by Edson Barboza, but I do think Barboza is going to win. But that's why this fight's being made, John, because if he wins this fight, then we can have those conversations. But right now, way too early to be talking about him being a future champion or beating these guys. And I by the way, I got to give the media a bit of a hard time. Do you remember when he beat Cub Swanson? And I'm not going to mention the names, but there's a few media members who said this guy should fight Max Holloway. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. You got to be more. There's rankings for a reason. There's it's to move you up in the right direction and progress your career. We can't just, if you're playing in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins just can't play the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. It just doesn't work like that. Although that wouldn't work. They're in the same conference, but you understand what I'm saying here. Like, it's not, you can't take a, mid-tier team and get them to fight the best one. It doesn't work like that. Euros in the chat. What's up, man? Good to hear from you, buddy. Have you guys been checking out Tough? I'm pumped versus Turcos versus Heinstand fight. Battle versus Gore. Urbina will be awesome too. Putting those fights on the card is a great move. Haven't watched it yet. Still, it's on my PVR. I'm going to catch up. I'll have to catch up, I guess, this week. And maybe this weekend, actually. There's no UFC, so maybe this will be the week I catch up on the fights.
I've watched all of them except for yesterday or 2 days ago, the most recent one.
And thoughts?
And, the pranks are whack. The beef is real, though.
I love the beef. I just watched their interview. They had another thing today on ESPN, and I've never seen Volkanovski this pissed off. It's either going to help him in the fight or actually like kind of deteriorate him a little bit. But you can just see that he's getting really annoyed with Ortega and some of his antics and stuff. So we'll have to see how that one pans out. What's up, Chat Tree in the chat here? Who, by the way, I saw, what was it, 30 million social media followers. Anyways, the Burgos knockout was like Edson added poison to his punches. Yeah, that's a great move, Roman. Great move. By the way, Roman, I still got to reach out to Rakic. I'll do that this week. I messaged his management last week about something else and didn't hear back, so we'll see what happens. Barboza could be on a 4-fight win streak. A lot of his fights go either way. Good point. Barboza Dos Anjos would have been a great fight had they fought back then. Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. They never fought each other if you're sort of looking at that. I think the winner of this matchup versus the Volk Ortega loser makes some sense, especially if it's Ortega.
If it's Barboza, I think.
Well, you got to think it's what, 1 and 2 fighting. I don't know. I mean, there's Korean Zombie. I think if anything, you could do the loser of Yair Rodriguez and Holloway. I think that would make more sense, especially if Rodriguez loses. I think that would make a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's a bit too high of a jump for this fight. But we'll see. Because I guess, well, maybe not. Because I guess if you lose the fight, technically you're still top 5, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I think if it's Barboza, and let's say Ortega loses, I think Ortega could fight Barboza. Why not? I mean, that's a good matchup. Or even the Korean Zombie for Barboza versus the Korean Zombie actually would be a good fight too. Actually, amazing fight.
Sure. Max again saying, be prepared to cry when Barboza lose. I'm not. This is what I'm talking about. There's so many, you guys, you fans, you got to quit being so sensitive about this stuff. Okay. I just picked him. I'm not, I don't have any Edson Barboza posters on my wall. I interviewed him. Doesn't mean I'm his biggest fan. Come on, people. Let's get real. I don't even follow him on social media.
He doesn't even have Kleenex in the room. Come on.
Exactly. And I don't cry about stuff like that. If Barboza wins, he will be on a 1 fight away from a title shot. In my opinion, he should fight Zombie if he wins. Great call, Roman. Completely agree. I don't know if Zombie will wait. I don't know what the latest is on Zombie and when he's looking to fight. I think he tried to. I know when I talked to Eddie Cha, he was trying to be the backup for Volkan Ortega. Although I guess that would make sense if it's Volko. But yeah.
I don't think no one's gonna leapfrog Max. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Got to read Euro's comment. He says, Max, if you want to be Jiga's boyfriend, just say that. Good call, Euro. Euro's always got my back. Antoine says, hey, good morning, guys. Who could you guys see fighting the winner after this fight? I sort of already talked about that. What's next for Dan Ige? 50K. Arnold Allen, I think, makes a lot of. Well, actually, I guess Allen's ranked ahead of him.
Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell's a bit of a wild card because I don't know. Like when I spoke to him about a month and a bit ago, he's still recovering from that hand injury. That's always a fight I've wanted to see. There's a couple different ways you could go with Ige here. Maybe Sodiq Yusuff. He lost his last fight. He's ranked number 12. I think that could make sense.
I think he's going to end up fighting Evloev, which
Evloev?
is a guy that nobody wants to fight. Or Evloev's going to fight Bryce Mitchell. I think he's going to end up. Someone's going to end up having to fight him. You know what I mean, in the rankings, because Evloev is like that guy that I don't know. He's just like he's
a Ruby Sports guy, right?
Yeah, he's a Ruby Sports guy.
Okay, because I was going to say because that would because I was going to say if he was dominance as well, then I think they would avoid them, even though Dan's not rep by them, but Dan does work for them. So, yeah, I think any of those lower tier featherweights would make sense as well. Jose Flores is asking you, how good is that Turcos tough guy? Turkios. I don't know how you say it.
Oh, he's awesome, man. Yeah, Turkios is awesome, man. The dude is like, he's like a Filipino zombie or something. The guy is just punches and takes punches, eats one to give one. It's pretty insane, his fighting style, but it works, man. He beat the guy that nobody thought would lose in the tournament and in his last fight. So we'll see what happens with him and what is it, Brady? I think, yeah, Brady's fighting him. Yeah, that's going to be a good fight. That's a good finale.
Brady Halstead, right?
Yeah, Halstead.
I know I always bring this up, but it's still cool. I called this fight before he got on Tough, which is kind of neat. So I
just interviewed his last opponent.
Chad Anheliger.
Chad, yeah.
Chad, I've probably called 4 or 5 of Chad's fights. Great guy. I'm gonna talk to him.
He knocked out Brady in his. You called.
I was cage side for that fight doing commentary. So what happened in that fight actually was Brady was winning, and then he just gassed out, and Chad took advantage and finished him. So it was interesting. But and who was in his corner for that fight was Julian Erosa, in Brady's corner for that fight.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think was it him? Juliana Pena was there too for that card, which is interesting. So. I was thinking, I think Arosa was in the corner of George Alcala. Never mind. completely different. Anyways, Roman says, I'd like to see Ige versus Emmett. That's another good fight. I think would make sense for both guys, right? Which is good. Thoughts on Aspinall versus Pavlovic, banger of a fight. We kind of predicted that was going to happen, right? I think it was you I was talking to about that sort of made a lot of sense. By the way, MMA On Point did a really good interview with Aspinall at a bar, Pizzi Carroll. The production's just unreal. I like to see more of that type of stuff. Back when the travel restrictions are done, I'll look to do some content like that. But it's I think Aspinall's the real deal. I would favor him in that fight. I'm very high on him.
Yeah, I think so. But Pavlovic, man, he's a guy that nobody talks about. But he's ranked, I believe, right now, right?
Pavlovic, yeah.
Yeah, he's ranked, right?
Actually, I don't know if he is. Let me.
He is. He's ranked number 15. So
there you go.
And Aspinall's number 13. Yeah, I favor Aspinall in that fight just by recent performances. But man, I would not count out Pavlovic in that. He's a guy that just sneaks up and wins fights. So we'll see.
Kevin Nicholson, man, I got to give a shout out to Kevin. This guy, he's an injury specialist, like he's a recovery injury guy or whatever. He always watches my interviews and definitely points out the injury side of things. Great follow, great analysis here. He says, do either of you think Chikadze is especially vulnerable to the kicks in his lead leg? I do think Barboza could take advantage. If so, yes. To answer your question, that's something we didn't even touch on. I think that's entirely possible.
It is possible, but remember Barboza. What fight was that where he busted? Oh, it was the last fight against Shane Burgos where he cut open his leg.
He did, yeah.
Kicks,
yeah,
right?
But watch my interview with him over on Low Kick MMA. He says that's all good. He was good to go. It was just a minor injury he had from that. So it was a cut, I think, or something.
You know who else had a similar injury to that? Is Luke Rockhold, and what happened to him after that?
It's true.
Not so good. So.
Yeah, but Luke's a different story. Luke still thinks he's championship material. Real News agrees that the odds should be in favor of Barboza, so we're all in agreement there. Roman likes my Johnny Walker comparison to Chikadze. Jose Flores, is Nasrat versus Hooker possible? Sorry, I keep running through these, producer Michael. By the way, Michael, congratulations on your win over Michael Chiesa last weekend. Jose Flores, is Nasrat and Hooker possible? It's kind of BS that since Nasrat ducked Armin and reward him with a ranked guy. Hate using the word ducked. But I don't have an issue with that fight. I mean, Hooker's got to fight, right? And I think he's been, from what he told me in the last interview, is that he's been asking the UFC for a fight. I think ideally he would have liked to have been on the Volkanovski card. That's not happening, I would assume, because they would have announced it by now. Maybe he's looking at the Whitaker and Adesanya card whenever that does end up happening. That's going to be a ways away. I mean, that's definitely going to be, I would think, next year. But I think that matchup makes sense. Just Hooker needs a not killer fight. He needs a fight to just get his bearings back. And I think with Nasrat, he's been kind of up and down, right? Everyone thought this guy was going to be the next big thing, and then he ran into a few losses. So I would like to see sort of what happens there as well.
What? Nasrat is going to fight Hooker? Is that something that's been talked about right now? Is that something
I've heard some rumblings about that. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, Hooker said he'll fight anybody. So, and Armin is set up to fight.
Yeah, who's Armin fighting now? He's fighting Christos Giagos, which is
Christos Giagos was
good for Christos in that fight.
Not a bad fight. Yeah, exactly. He's got a big fight coming up for himself. Well, we'll see what happens. Nasrat will go in there and strike with Hooker. So it's actually a very favorable match.
Hooker wins that fight, though.
Yeah.
Hooker wins that fight.
Yeah, it's like a big bounce back fight for him.
Sign Collectibles, good to hear from you. Always appreciate the support. He says, do Mousasi, Koreshkov, Magomedov all win in Bellator? I think yes. I will say this about that Magomedov fight. Rafion Stotts might be one of the most underrated bantamweights out there. The guy's got a great resume. Just the one loss, a quick loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Kind of, I hate to use the word fluke, but it kind of is looking like that. I would be a little hesitant about him. In fact, I did a Bellator preview on my Patreon. I think there's some value on Stotts. I do. I think there's potential for him to pull this one off. I've been impressed with Magomedov, but these guys can be beat. I think there is a possibility of an upset here. So that's when I look at Mousasi should beat Salter. My only question is with the wrestling, because Salter's obviously very good at that. I'd be a little hesitant. I don't think Mousasi should be minus 300. I think it should be closer to 2-1. Koreshkov should beat Hamasi, I think. But so to answer your question, they should win, but I'd be a little hesitant on the Magomedov fight personally. We'll see. Your thoughts?
Yeah, man, that Salter fight, man. I think too many people are undermining Salter's skill set in this fight, man, because we've seen Mousasi kind of get held down a little bit from time to time.
King Mo, right? Rafael Lovato Jr.
Yeah, so Salter can go in there and do the exact same, because it's all about winning that title, right? At the end of the day, not finishing fight. And you don't really have to finish. You have to win the fight, right? Not finish the fight. And I can see Salter going in there and implementing a pretty good game plan. But Mousasi, man, you talked to him a couple of days ago. What's the vibes from him?
He's good. I think he just wants to get back in there and fight. He's kind of annoyed at the whole Corona situation and, not being able to, travel. And I think Bellator, he told me in the interview that Bellator, I think, was targeting the Salter fight for June, and then it kept getting pushed back. So he's just ready to get in there. Says his training's going well. Weight cut's good. He actually focused on wrestling for this camp. So I don't know who he worked with. He was kind of bullish on that. But yeah, we'll see. I think he's covered all of his bases. But to be honest, he's got to look better than he did in the Lima fight. I know Lima's pretty good, but I think that should have been more of a decisive win for him. Yeah, he's got to look like he did against Rory. I think that's what we got to see from him, and really cement what he can get done there. Cole Shelton, good to hear from you, Cole. By the way, Cole, if you're around this afternoon around 5 Eastern, join me on the Parting Shot. I'm doing a members only show today, so it's going to be good. Giving Adam the month off. Do you think Kevin Lee remains on the August 28th card? I think he'll get pushed back a few weeks to get a ranked guy or well-known name. He won't face some nobody on short notice, in my opinion. I agree with you, Cole. Yeah, I know Daniel Rodriguez has put his name in the hat. I mean, what does he gain from that, really, other than just getting a fight at welterweight? It's going to be strategic. You got to be careful if you're Kevin Lee here, because he did lose Oliveira, which is crazy. Like, people are already writing Kevin Lee off, and it's like he just lost to the guy who's the lightweight champ. I think he's in the right weight class now at 170. It would be a perfect 165er, but I think that's what's going to end up happening, because I think we would have heard something by now if they did find someone that he wanted to fight. If you haven't heard, obviously Sean Brady had to get surgery, so he's out. So yeah, Kevin Lee's just got to fight, though, because it's been a while. He hasn't fought since the card he fought on was when the pandemic just started. So that's how long it's been.
Yeah, it seems like Kevin Lee has become like an injured animal out there, because everybody's calling him out. Will Brooks, he's not even signed with the UFC, calling him out. Jared Gooden is calling him out. And then Daniel Rodriguez put his name in the hat and all of that. Yeah, like you said, he needs to be very careful of who he fights next. And he needs a full camp to prepare for these fights, right? He needs to be fully ready for his next challenge. If he's not, there's no purpose for him to take a short notice fight, unless he was a main event or something like that, and they need to keep the main event intact. But it's not that story. So I think Kevin Lee, he pushes his fight, and he faces somebody that's ranked or well known. Because if you lose to a ranked guy, you lost to a ranked guy. You can still come back from that. If you lose to a guy that just gets signed, like, just imagine if like Sean O'Malley lost to that Chris Montino guy. That would have been insane loss, right? That would have been tough to come back from. So Kevin Lee doesn't want to get into that situation.
Sign Collectibles. Can Ray Cooper finish Rory? Yes.
Massive, dude. Like, Ray Cooper got
we'll talk briefly about PFL at the end, because we're going to do our we'll do our underdog picks and stuff and all that, and we can definitely touch on that as well. But yeah, I think that's a very interesting fight. I did have a chance to speak to Ray Cooper yesterday. That'll be up on should be up today on Pub Sports Radio. But yeah, a little bit of an interesting thing that I kind of didn't put together. But he's kind of doing this. He's kind of says he's doing this fight for BJ Penn, because obviously Penn lost to Rory McDonald ages ago, and Ray remembers watching that fight, and he's like, I want to get one back for BJ. I thought that was kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens. Holloway would have starched Giga. Euro says that. I think he would have won. Yeah, I don't know about starching, but we'll see what he wants there. Jose Flores, should Tony move down to featherweight? No, I think if anything, it's the opposite. See how he does without the weight cut. I don't think I've seen Tony in person. I don't think he could make featherweight. I don't know. You never know. Everyone's different. Do you think Tony can make featherweight?
I hope he doesn't even try to make featherweight, because I don't know. He's already missing a few screws at lightweight. So going down 10 more pounds is only going to make you worse. So yeah, I think he should go to welterweight and do like what Kevin Lee's doing. Go up there and
fight Kevin Lee.
He should exactly.
Do a rematch. Why not? Do it up. That would be fine. Allen versus Emmett, Ige versus Evlov makes sense. Thoughts? Yes, rankings wise, those all make sense. Again, we got to wait till Emmett's ready and healthy to come back. I get questions about him all the time. I think you and I both interviewed him, and people are still like, "What's up with Josh Emmett?" It's like, watch our interviews. Come on, people, get with the program.
Well, I just saw a story that he's like his knee's starting to progress really well. So, and he's lifting heavy, so something must be going on, right? Something.
We'll see. Giga's claim about being the best striker will be tested. 10th realm. I agree. I mean, this is like we said. This is the fight. So
it's the ultimate test, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
How many other guys do you know? Like, you got Of course, you got Max Holloway, right? He's a great striker, and you could even put Alex Volkanovski up there as one of the better strikers in that division, right?
Yep.
So if he can beat Barboza at his game, yeah, he'd be considered one of the best strikers in the division.
Sign Collectibles. Rose just started camp. Do you know who she's fighting?
Yes,
it's got to be Carla, right?
I don't know. It's either Carla or Zhang Weili. Like,
there's no. Okay, I'm going to say this, and and I like Zhang Weili. There's no reason to do a rematch. Absolutely not. She defended the title once, and now she gets a rematch when she got finished in the first round. It wasn't like a fluke or anything. She got finished. Like, I know some people say early stoppage. She lost that fight. She should fight Joanna.
Yeah, she lost the fight, but why would she fight Joanna? She beat her twice already.
No. Oh no, I thought you said Zhang Weili. She fights her next.
No, I did.
You said Joanna. No. She shouldn't. Joanna's nowhere near that realm. Joanna, I don't know if Joanna will ever fight again. It seems like she feels like she deserves a title. It's like, I don't know what planet you're living on that you think you should get another title shot after losing twice to the same person decisively. Like, there's no reason. And she's just.
I'm just saying that's the options at the top of the division. It's either Zhang Weili or Carla Esparza. I think those are the fights the UFC wants to make. It's like they're dangling that over her. Or maybe they're just trolling us. Maybe Rose is trolling us, because it's just an Instagram post or what was it? Who was it? Her manager or something that posted that?
I don't know.
I believe. Yeah. It's
Brian
nowadays,
Butler?
you know what I mean? Yeah. Nowadays, you don't know. Fighters can be trolling you and you just fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker all day, every day, just because it's on social media.
Well, and that's just like I'll give you a quick example here. I'm not going to mention it. It takes a quick Google search, Twitter search to find out who it is. There was someone last night who reported that they spoke to Ali, and Ali's like, Vicente Luque is more deserving than Leon Edwards. No shit. What do you think he's going to say? That Leon Edwards deserves more than his other client? Of course he's not going to say that. That's not news. Everyone knew that he was going to say that. Like. Anyways, that stuff drives me nuts, by the way. Like, I don't know if you think, like, there are fans
that guy, I would say the same thing, though.
Well, yeah, you're going to get attention, but that looks more like PR than real news. Like, everyone knows, unless, and the worst part is there's going to be people that believe that. And they're like, wow, I can't believe he said that. And it's like, you don't know the politics behind it. It's kind of annoying. Anyways, I'm going to talk more about that on my Patreon today on the parting shot. Who are your guys' favorite featherweight at the moment? Ranked or unranked doesn't matter. I like Bryce Mitchell. Always like watching him fight. Ilia Topuria is a guy I'm really enjoying. I was supposed to interview him last week. We had a bit of a scheduling conflict. Those are some guys that I like. And who else at featherweight? Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar's up there too. Like watching Kattar fight. See, I didn't say Edson Barboza there, Max. Max left the chat once I made my points. So there we go.
Oh, really?
What about you? Who's your? Well, I don't see him posting here anymore.
Max, hit that subscribe button. Man.
Yeah, exactly. Do us a favor here. If you're gonna talk smack, at least we got to get something out of this.
Yeah, really.
Who are some of your favorite featherweights?
Oh, some of my favorite featherweights. I like watching Shane Burgos fight. I feel like he's always in good fights. Josh Emmett is really fun to watch. And Max is great. Dude, that whole Max, Calvin, the Korean Zombie. What is not to like about all those guys fighting?
Yeah, they're all
fighting
awesome.
each other, man. Like, a lot of those guys haven't even fought each other yet, which is insane. And hopefully they get to do that, in the next couple of years.
Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz boxing on Triller. Cole, is this official?
Yeah, I heard that Tito signed the fight.
Why?
I heard Tito's on the fight. Is that
Tito
the fight?
Still fighting, man.
Wow. Hey, why not, man? Make some money.
Not Tito, though. He's taken a lot of damage in his career, man. Like Anderson, I guess you can almost even argue that as well.
James, I don't care. I don't care if they took a lot of damage. If they want to fight, let them fight, man. Like, if he needs to make money. The dude has to, pay for his Rolls Royce and his boats and his house. Like, how he's going to do that?
I guess because he lost his governor job or whatever.
I don't think that was paid him that much anyways, but I'm just
I will say this, though. I'm more intrigued by that than De La Hoya and Belfort. I have zero interest in that. I mean, I'll probably, come to think of it, if Anderson's on there, I'll probably do a watch along. By the way, we got to do a watch along for Paul and Woodley, by the way, too. I got to figure that out because I know the numbers on that have been pretty decent. So we'll check that out. But anyways, 10th Realm says Burgos should fight Topuria. Sure. Yeah. Rankings wise, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Any update on Joanna? Haven't heard anything. I got to reach out to her management. They were actually supposed to, I was trying to get, I was actually spoke to her management last week about something else and never got anything back. Has been getting the ghost. John, you know how it is. It's tough sometimes. You got to follow up a couple times with these managers, and some of them are really good at getting back to you right away, and others not so much. By the way, for those who want to know, I don't know if you talked to Ruby this week, but Fiziev's traveling, but sounds like I might get him next week or something. I don't know. Did you speak to him?
No, I don't really interview fighters after.
I do, because I want to get him to talk more about this the comment about the condom. I thought that was hilarious, or the calling out Hezbollah. That's the type of stuff I live for.
True, yeah.
I'm joking.
I'm just not into it too much. So.
Do you think Turcos gives me Pacquiao vibes due to him fighting style, or both because they are Filipinos? John, what do you think?
No, I don't think he gives me Pacquiao vibes, but the dude is a wild man. But yeah, nothing. I don't think he's Pacquiao style. Pacquiao is Pacquiao, man. You can't compare him to nobody.
What's next for Gamrot?
I don't think they should push him so fast, though. Like, people like this is like the Cub Swanson win, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna treat him like Giga, then yeah, you beat Jeremy Stevens, finished him. Well, you might as well give him who's up in the rankings. Let's give him Dan Ige now. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
I guess
there's got to be a process there.
Way,
yeah, I think maybe Diego Ferreira would be a good fight.
I think Ferreira got to fight though. I think he got to fight.
Oh, does he? Okay. Who's he fighting?
I don't even know, but I believe he does have a fight though.
Oh, maybe it's like not signed yet or whatever. It's one of those things. Yeah. Let me just check. It's so tough to keep track with the fight announcements here. Oh, he's fighting Grant Dawson. How did I miss that one?
That's a good fight right there.
It's a good fight for Grant. Yeah. We'll see. Do you guys think Luque should jump ahead of Leon as the number one contender? Both 10-fight win streaks, but Luque finished 9 of his. But then you can make the argument that Leon beat Luque.
But right? That was so long ago.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
That was so Leon.
I think Leon should be where he is.
I don't even remember that fight at all. Like, I don't remember nothing about that fight. They fought each other. Like, I was surprised when I heard that.
Yeah,
like,
no, they did.
Remember the fight?
It was in 2017. Yeah.
That's so long ago. Like, they should fight each other. I'm serious. Like, that's the fight they should make is Luque versus Edwards. Because Edwards should not sit around. Why are you sitting around? It showed you that it didn't work 2 years ago or a year ago. Why would you do it now? You know what I mean?
You should fight Luque instead of fighting Burns. And the reason I say that, because a lot of people are like, and Burns is trying to call for it. I'm like, what do you think's going to happen if you win that fight, Gilbert? You're not going to fight Usman again, unless Colby beats Usman. But like, you're just the UFC. You just lost to Usman this year. It's like Burns is going to be in this weird spot unless he wants to go back to 155, which I doubt happens. I don't think he's going to 185, considering he was a 155er. Like, what do you do, right? So I don't know. I agree. Luque and Edwards is the fight to make. I have an article on MMA Search coming out, which actually argued that exact point. So there you go. Reading my mind once again, JHK. Sign collectibles. If Kayla leaves PFL, does the division go away, or do they sign Julia Budd? It goes away. They're not going to build a division around Julia Budd. I love Julia. Lives about 40 minutes from me. I saw my buddy Mike Bond went and interviewed her yesterday. I should have thought of that myself. I was one of those. You ever do that, by the way? You're scrolling through, you're like, damn, I should have interviewed that person. And I forgot that Julia was a free agent. So there's a lot of possibility. Bellator should just re-sign Julia. They still get one more good fight out of her with Cyborg. Give her a 3-fight deal. Make her fight Cyborg, give her 2 more fights, build other fighters off of her or whatever, and do that. But no, they're not going to build a division around Julia. If Kayla leaves, that's probably it for the women's division, unless they bring in 135 or 125, I think.
I think the UFC signs both of them by the end of the year.
You think they sign Julia? She's coming off. I guess she's coming off wins.
You got to build the featherweight division. You know what I mean? Like, she's coming
I'd like to
wins.
See her in the UFC, just you know, because of everything she's put into it. It would be a nice story.
And you throw in what is it? You throw in Aspen Ladd. She goes with the featherweight. You know,
Aspen should fight at featherweight.
Pretty good division right there, and start swallowing up some of these so-called lightweights in the PFL. Really, they're not lightweights. They're kind of just fighting at their natural weight, and they can go down to 145 in the UFC. I think a lot of those fighters will sign.
If Aldo fights Rob Font next, who do you got? I've got Aldo.
Yeah, I got Aldo.
Just with how good he looked. How can you not?
How incredible did he look at that last fight, dude?
Look like if you would have showed me tape of Aldo over the weekend, and then you showed tape of him 10 years ago, there's not much of a difference. Like it's incredible. I've never this guy. I won't whatever he's eating or having. Actually, I think that's one of the things I heard was that apparently when he was on his run, he wasn't on like a good diet or anything. He was just sort of eating what he wants, and now like maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
Yeah, he was just eating at this hamburger joint. I think he has a hamburger restaurant.
I gotta try that hamburger. That's the next review video for me. Is I gotta try his hamburger. Might have to go to Brazil for that. probably not going to happen then because I don't want to go down there. Because it's dangerous. Remember Brian Butler, the manager, went down there to a cafe for one of the UFC cards and some guy like robbed him at gunpoint and took his phone? Did you ever hear that story? Guess not.
No, but I've heard a lot of stuff, but I'm still not scared. I'll go to Brazil.
I'm good. I got 2 kids, so one.
I got
one
kids, but
I know. I just teach their own, so to speak. Roman says, I want to see Giga fight Movisar. Yeah, I mean, I think that fight will eventually happen, right?
Yeah, if he loses, that would be a good fight to make.
Are Volkan Ortega friends or enemies at this point? I mean, is the grass green? Let's just leave it at that. Euro, thoughts on Diego Sanchez signing with Bare Knuckle? What are we doing here, people? They might as well just rename Bare Knuckle to MMA retirement plan. Like that's basically what we're seeing. Chad Mendes is over there. Like, what? Like, I know Mendes had some pretty good striking when he was in the UFC, but I don't know. Mendes is a wrestler. I don't know. I've given my comments before in Bare Knuckle.
What?
Good for the fighters who get paid.
But how are they signing all these fighters?
I don't know where the money's coming from.
Exactly, because I heard that their pay-per-views are doing like less than 10,000, which is nothing. You know what I mean? I think regional shows get more than them. You know what I mean? And they're paying Paige like a gang of money, right? I'm pretty sure they're paying Rachel a lot of money too. And then they're signing these guys, and I'm pretty sure they're wanting like 6 figures a fight. Don't you think? At least, right? So
yeah, I don't know. Anyways, to answer your question, not good news. Diego should get one more UFC fight against a mid-tier guy and then walk off into the sunset. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. That's my personal opinion, and I like Diego. With all the crazy strikers at featherweight division, who do you guys think is the undisputed best striker? Max Holloway. Him and Volk, I think, are 1 and 2. I think
in the featherweight division.
Featherweight, yeah.
Yeah, of course, man. Those 2 fights. If you go watch them in slow motion, there was some of the most incredible striking battles you've ever seen.
Roman, how long before Magomed signs with the UFC? I don't think he's going to sign anytime soon. I think that was strategic of him because look, you can't have all of Ali's guys in the UFC. So I think they're trying to spread the wealth a little bit. Usman, Nurmagomedov's another guy. I think they're trying to just to let them shine in another spot here. And I think Magomed's got their Bellator's done a very good job over the last couple of years building that bantamweight division. So I don't think he'll be over the UFC anytime soon. I think he stays there for a while. Maybe down the line he comes over, but it won't be in the next couple of years, I don't think. Bilal said he'd fight Kevin at UFC 266. I think Kevin should absolutely take that fight. It's a very favorable match for him and Bilal's hire. Yeah, I agree. That is a good fight. Yeah, good thinking, Roman.
That's a good matchup.
He should take that fight. I don't know what the deal is there.
That's a good matchup for both guys, I think.
Roman, oh, by the way, check out Ali's latest tweet. If Nick Diaz wins, he should fight Usman. I mean, we saw this before. Watch this is what I'm talking about. And then everyone writes stories on it. I know people are going to click and whatever, but it's like I watched the TMZ interview where he said, what do these guys have shown us? Leon Edwards, he hasn't shown anything. Colby hasn't shown anything. Nate Diaz, he showed us something. Yeah, he showed us he lost to Leon Edwards. Like, yeah. It doesn't surprise me because it's obviously he wants to get his client paid, but like, why even have rankings if that's the case? Like, let's just do a free for all. Let's just, let the fans pick the fights.
James, that's the job of the managers.
I know, but it's ridiculous. It's also ridiculous too.
It is ridiculous, but that's the job. Like, if you're a manager, that's what you're going to do because you're going to try to get your fighters the biggest paydays and the best fights possible. And the dude has been doing it. You cannot lie about it, man. And it's not his fault that the media wants to write stories about it all the time. No, it's not his fault.
I know.
I mean, it's not like he's
I'm not going to write anything.
Paychecks, Of course, we're not going to write anything, but it's not like he's handing out paychecks to people to write stuff. So they just pick it up, they write it, and people read it. And they eat it up, man. It's weird because and it's Nick Diaz too. And that's another thing. Nick Diaz, he doesn't even have to say anything. He just has other people say stuff.
That's going to be a one-sided beatdown because all Usman has to do is take the fight to the ground and just out-wrestle him. That's been the Diaz's kryptonite since 2010. It's always been the same thing. There's a reason Nick Diaz never fought a wrestler in Strikeforce. You notice that, right? He never fought a single wrestler in Strikeforce. There's a reason he never fought Woodley or any of those other guys in Strikeforce. He fought Daly. He fought Cyborg. He fought Male Cyborg. He fought there was no wrestlers there. That's why, because he fought strikers because it's going to be a better fight. So.
It's not even going to go to the ground. I think Usman knocks him out on the feet. I don't even think.
Why even? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess so. That's true. Anyways, before we go, we got to remember to get our underdog picks here as well. I'll tell you an underdog I liked, and I kind of alluded to him earlier. Hate to go against my countryman, but I'm going Ray Cooper over Rory McDonald in the main event of PFL. I think he knocks out Rory or at least outstrikes him or something. Rory should have easily won that fight against T-Bow last fight, and he didn't. And that just makes me show that he's the old Rory. He's not the new. He's not the old Rory. He's the new Rory. That's a little bit not what he used to be, right? There's been like the Millender fight, I think was almost like not a fluke, but just Millender's been submitted a handful of times. The Alessia dos Santos is the guy who showed the blueprint on how to be Millender. McDonald has been pretty lackluster. The Neiman Gracie win. There's all these fights where he's just been I thought John Fitch beat him in Bellator. He lost decisively to Lima. I think this is a spot where, despite Rory switching camps, I think that's been a good move. I think Cooper wins. Cooper's a tough guy. It's very tough to put out. He's got good striking. He's due for a knockout too. So I think there's a possibility we could see an upset here. And at plus 125, I'll take my chances with Ray Cooper. Your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, man. I'm picking Rory to win the fight, but I think that's a good underdog pick. Really, there's not many underdog picks that you can, that are enticing. Maybe the Alex Martinez fight versus Loic, but other than that, I don't really see.
As you can see there, I still have to make my picks. I will get them done, putting it on my phone right now. I just got a new phone, by the way, so I'm one of the most annoying parts of getting a new phone is having to make sure all your apps are good from your old phone before you get rid of it or before you sell it or whatever. So I've been doing that the last 24 hours. Anyways, I don't know why I went on that rant. So yeah, I'm going with Ray Cooper. Who's your underdog pick this week? It'd be PFL or Bellator, doesn't matter.
I'll take John Salter in that main
event. Going against my boy. See, now if Max would have been smart if he would have said, you're going to cry if Mousasi loses, that would make more sense. Because everyone, look, I've been very vocal about this. Gegard Mousasi is my favorite fighter, one of my favorite interviews. I can see it, honestly, because Salter's very underrated. Very underrated. This title shot, I talked to him in my interview. I said this, and I said, look, man, I think this is a long time coming for you. He had the one loss to Lovato Jr., but outside of that, Salter's looked really good. And he was a guy that has really transformed himself since losing people forgot he fought in the UFC. He fought 3 times. It was years ago. But he's done quite a number in Bellator, and he's looked great doing it. So, yeah, I think Mousasi will win. I'm going to pick him. Once I make my pick here, you'll see that I pick him. But John Salter definitely has the potential of an upset. So there we go. I know we're kind of agreeing here a little bit in terms of these fights having upset potential, but I got to pick Mousasi. I'll never pick against Gegard Mousasi. So there we go. Let's get 2 more questions, and then we will get out of here as well. What else do we got? Rockholder Strickland early pick. I'm going Strickland, and we will break down that fight in the coming weeks. We'll definitely do our that as well. And let's get to one more question here. Does Cyborg fight before the end of the year? Well, I do a podcast with her every week. I would say yes. I think she will fight. I don't know what the holdup is, though. Bellator's got to get on there. I don't have any inside info onto that, but I would, if I'm a betting net, I say she fights again next year for sure, but probably in LA.
I think she fights this year. Probably
she'll fight Kat Zingano, I think, if I did get.
Yeah, in November or December or something like that. I don't know nothing, but I'm just saying that I think she does fight. She likes to fight, and she needs to stay active and keep that division moving. And yeah, Kat Zingano was waiting for her, so why not step up to the plate? And
Cyborg will win that fight. Kat's a bit of a name; they can use it, whatever. But Cyborg wins that fight. They need to. I'm waiting for someone to really, do something spectacular. I think they should sign Megan Anderson. I would like to see Megan and Cyborg fight at some point. Just the striking battle there be very interesting. I don't know what Megan's doing. Maybe she's waiting for PFL. That's another thing. Maybe Megan goes to PFL and they build around her because she does. I know Megan's a very polarizing figure in terms of like people like either like simping over her big time or people like finding her too sensitive and annoying. There's sort of like but there's a very strong feeling either way towards Megan. So I think if you're a PFL, you take advantage of that. But we'll see. I think Bellator's a good fit for her as well. All right, we got about a minute left. JHK, anything you got coming up this week that you want to let our audience know about, and where can they get a hold of you on social media?
Well, you can get a hold of me right there on the bottom. You can see JHK MMA.
That's true. It's kind of a wasted 5 seconds there. But.
What I got coming up? I got a couple interviews coming up this week.
Any big ones or?
I got a couple big ones, but I don't want to say who they are because I don't know.
Veteran move. Can't say it in case it doesn't pan out, right?
Exactly. I don't want to, crack the egg before they get laid or whatever you want to say it. And man, I always chasing. I think starting from next week, I'm gonna start picking up the interviews a little bit more. I've been kind of holding back because I had to have another job. And I have to kind of focus on that sometimes. But
are you back? Are you doing the other gig that you've been doing forever? I don't know if I'm allowed to say the teaching thing. Is that you still
Yeah,
doing that?
yeah. I've just been like kind of more focused on that. So like you haven't really seen much of the interviews go
Got to
through.
pay the bills, right? I get
Yeah,
it.
but I'm gonna be back in the next week or so and try to kick it up. And then a lot more Dana White Contender Series interviews coming through.
Same here. Yeah, I'm ramping that up. I just talked to Lorenzo Hood actually last week, who actually, believe it or not, 7th pro fight fought Curtis Blades on the regional scene, and it's actually an interesting story about how he got into MMA again and all that stuff. So
I love talking to those guys, man. They're all
it's
like
the best.
different story. Yeah. So look out for that stuff.
Follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Lynch on Sports, youtube.com/Lynch on Sports. That's where you can find all my content. If you missed it, I talked to the natural Randy Couture yesterday. Got a lot of different topics covered in that one. I know Submission Radio interviewed him a few weeks before, so I made sure I got some different stuff in there. Talked about McGregor and Weidman's injury and GSP not getting to fight De La Hoya, and even talked some NHL hockey, which every now and then I got to get in my interviews. So a lot of good stuff there from Randy. Got 2 pretty significant interviews over the next couple days, so keep your eyes out for that as well. For you Patreons, I'm doing the Parting Shot podcast today. It's actually a members only podcast. You guys know that already. Don't know why I mentioned that. And other than that, my Q&A tomorrow, my free Q&A on my second channel, youtube.com/Lynch MMA. You can find me there if you didn't get any of your questions answered here today. Shout out to our producer, Michael, who does an amazing job behind the scenes and gets everything done as well. Quickly, just want to mention, download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. You can put your picks in there, go toe-to-toe with us. It's the best app in the industry right now. Definitely make sure you check that out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back a week here today previewing another upcoming notable fight. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy Bellator and PFL this weekend, or Friday, I should say. Have a great day. Take it easy.